Hello, hello. Welcome to the Introduction to Copyright for Grade 6. I'm Miss Russ. Let's get started. Our standards and objectives. The learner will identify and distinguish components of copyright guidelines, fair use, and citations by completing a quiz with 20 questions with an accuracy of 80% or higher. And when given the APA formula for a Creative Commons image, create an APA-style citation for an image of their choice on a class Google slideshow. So we got to start from the ground up. We have to build that vocabulary to have that foundation. So there's 10 total words. First one is copyright. These are the regulations that describe the manner in which an original work can be used and copied. Copyright laws regulate the manner in which authors or artists can be reimbursed for their creative work. That word reimbursed means they get paid for it. They get that credit. Fair use. This is a basic criteria for an educator that can determine whether it's appropriate to use copyrighted materials in a classroom setting. The Copyright Act of 1976, this is the copyright protection extends to all original works of authorship to take into account new kinds of media, including pictures and videos and recordings. So permission, this is the consent of a person in authority. For our purposes, authority is the creator, the author, the publisher, so on and so forth. Plagiarize, this is what we're trying to avoid. First one is to steal and pass it off, the ideas or words of another as one's own, so that's taking credit for other people's work. And to use another's production without crediting the source. If you have that citation, you should be good to go as long as you're doing it appropriately. Vocab continues. So public domain, materials on which copyright protection has run out, or materials produced by federal government in the course of their regular work. So that means they don't have any copyright necessary, so you don't have to cite, but it's still always better to do so if you can give them the credit. Creative Commons, this is the one that our assignment is based on. This is a set of various licenses that allow people to share their copyrighted work to be copied, edited, built upon, etc., while retaining the copyright to the original work, often used attributively. Citation, the way you tell your readers that certain material in your work came from another source. It also gives your readers the information necessary to find that source again if they want to go and learn more about it. Reference, the act of mentioning someone or something in speech or writing. I've been referencing in text all of my sources, and you can see them on various slides where it has the author and the year. So Smaldino text, dictionary.com, Turnitin, Cambridge Dictionary, that's all there. And then attribution, which is basically the citation for images, and that's part of our project is on that as well. Okay. So why does it matter? If I were to ask anyone here, has anybody ever been called a copycat or called somebody else a copycat, I'm sure the answer would be an absolute yes. Hopefully not by 6th grade. That should be a major elementary school thing, but you never know. It's not a fun thing to see someone else get the credit, all that praise of, wow, good job. Particularly for something that you put in the effort and worked hard on. You take that and multiply it by 500, add in a lawyer. Nobody should add in lawyers, and that's what you'll get when money is involved. If there's some kind of financial impact, it's going to be a problem. We avoid that by the Copyright Law of 1976. It was passed specifically to protect people's rights to their own work, so you cannot have copycats. This law has a few rules and guidelines we can follow to use other people's work as references without being a copycat. This involves citations when needed to avoid plagiarism with a few exceptions. And let's give credit where credit is due, shall we? Alright, so what's a citation? Citation is a way of giving credit to individuals for their creative and intellectual works that you utilize to support your research. It can also be used to locate particular sources and combat plagiarism. Typically, a citation can include the author's name, date, location of the publishing company, journal title, or DOI, which is the Digital Object Identifier. Our in-text citation for that is from the University of Pittsburgh in 2018. There are 3 main types, APA, MLA, and Chicago-Turabian. They can be used for various things. APA is for education, science, and psychology. The P stands for psychology, which makes sense. MLA for the humanities, and Chicago-Turabian for business, history, and fine arts. Since ours is in education, we're going to focus on APA and IPA. And here we go. This is a fantastic link we can just look at for just a second. That gives citation examples based on bibliography, material type, whatever you need. So it's a fantastic reference and a resource for you guys to have to use. Moving on. So there are a few exceptions for education and just for overall. Fair use is the one we use for education. So teachers can use this to kind of help out in the classroom. There are 4 guidelines about what would be appropriate under fair use. It's purpose, nature, amount, and effect. The purpose is why it's being used. If it's for a nonprofit, that's generally for fair use, but if you're trying to sell something or do it for entertainment, not so much. The nature, this one is the trickiest. If it's not the magazine, periodical, video, so on and so forth, isn't marketed for education, it should be fine. But if it was marketed for education, your district may need to buy that for copyright. And then movies and cartoons or content created for entertainment, it can be a problem if money gets in the way. Again, if it's a short snippet, that's, amount. Small snippets of the overall work. Size of the snippet allowed depends on the length of the work as a whole. If it's something that affects it monetarily, it's going to be a no. It can be a supplement to the education content or educational content, but it cannot replace the original. So if I wanted to have all of my kids read a specific book, they either have to go out and buy that book, or we can use a paragraph, maybe a chapter. But if I were to copy over the entire book to give to my kids, that's not allowed. When in doubt, ask. Permission is likely to be given. If you don't know how to do it, there are instructions for that. You can go to your teacher, you can email, or you can go to, me, the librarian. Here's another index citation. Look at that. Alright, so major exceptions for everyone. The Creative Commons. There's a search portal that we will be using for our later on assignment. But the basics on how to attribute, which is the image citation, a Creative Commons image. You include the title, the author with their link, and the license by CC, which is Creative Commons, under the license deed, and you always got to link those. The symbols are very, very important. It indicates the type of licensing and attribution that's needed, depending on what the original creator wants. And this one specifically is a circle with a human in it. There's probably the easiest to do because it's very simple. There's an example over here, Florida Manatee. That's the title by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services Southwest Region. So that's the original creator. And that's a link to the overall page under Creative Commons. And the license deed, which when you're finding an image, it'll always give you the link to that, and then you can attach it there. So pay attention to what you're looking at. Major exceptions for everyone, part 2. So this is the public domain, no copyright or expired copyright. So it said a government employee, which is our example over here, or if the person has passed away, if it's expired. So a single author, it's the author's lifetime plus 70 years. So if your author lived for 20 years, it would be the 20 years that they were alive plus 70 years. If they were paid to do the work, like if I wanted somebody to go out and take pictures, it's 100 years from the creation or 7 times years for the date of publication or distribution. Depends on whichever one is first. If it was prior to 1978, then it's 28 years, then possible renewal for 75 additional years. This one is a circle with a C inside with a line through it. But you should still credit the author if you can, even if you don't have to. They deserve the credit, and people might want to go do more research on it, so they have to be able to know where to find it. Got a few scenarios here. Miss Russ, that's me, decides to make a copy of an entire children's story to give to her first grade class. Is this okay under fair use? Definitely not. At that point, it could, depending on who the author was, it needs to be a short snippet. Miss Russ prints out, Miss Russ prints out a class set of a PowerPoint she made using public domain images. Does this follow the guidelines? Absolutely. If it's public domain, you should still cite where you got it from, but there wouldn't be any problem there. It's public domain, there are no license or restrictions. Number 3, Miss Russ makes a copy of one chapter of Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, which was copyrighted in 1996, to have her students discuss mood. Is this acceptable under fair use? Absolutely. That one snippet of it would be completely fine. It's under fair use for education. Miss Rush shows a 30-second clip of the Wonder Woman movie to introduce her class to Amazons at the beginning of her Greek mythology unit. Is this okay? Yes, it's a short, brief little snippet, just like almost commercials are. So that is completely fine, as long as it's appropriate to the age range. And then number 5, Miss Rush uses a quote from an article she found online without citing her source. Is this okay? No, that's not fair use. That's not appropriate at all. That's basically cheating. Okay, and then what happens then if you don't follow those? These are the consequences. If you break the rules, fines and possible jail time. It's a big deal. So $750 to $30,000 per infringement, which is per instance of the law being broken. If it's proven to be on purpose, like not just an error on your citations, it can go up to $150,000. So even if it's an accident, it can still happen. But if it's on purpose for financial gain, so you get to get money from it, that's $250,000 and up to 5 years in prison. That's a big deal. Just don't do it. It's very simple to cite, and there's lots of resources for everybody to look at. And here you go. Once again, Smaldino 2019. I reference her a lot. And then you have your lovely reference page. So you have all of the pages, the author, the date, title, and where you found it from. So here's an example of that. And that is everything. Thank you so much.